It has become a tradition at our center on the Sunday closest to our 4th of July celebration to read the prayer that our founder Ernest Holmes wrote, the one that was first published in the Science of Nine magazine in 1953, I think it is. It says, "Believing in the divine destiny of the United States of America and the preservation of liberty, security, and self-expression for all, I offer this, my prayer for my country. I know that divine intelligence governs the destiny of the United States of America, directing the thought and the activity of all who guide its affairs. I know that success, prosperity, and happiness are the gifts of freedom and the divine heritage of everyone in this country, that they are now operating in the affairs of every individual in this country. I know that divine guidance enlightens the collective mind of the people of this country, causing it to know that economic security may come to all without the loss of either personal freedom or individual self-expression. I know that no one can believe or be led to believe that personal freedom must be surrendered to ensure economic security for all. The all-knowing mind contains the answer to every problem which confronts this country. I know that every leader in this country is now directed by this all-knowing mind and has the knowledge of a complete solution to every problem. Each is impelled to act upon this knowledge to the end that abundance, security, and peace shall come to all. And I know that this spiritual democracy shall endure, guaranteeing to everyone in this country personal liberty, happiness, and self-expression." Well, you might be thinking, it certainly doesn't look like that, right? It's like, okay. Which is why it makes such a perfect introduction for our topic throughout July, because we're talking about healing as a revelation. And the idea behind that is that although things on the outside can get pretty messy, the divine remains exactly as it has always been. Even though things can break down out there and even become corrupt, the divine remains as it has always been. Even though my human mind can get messed up and overwhelmed with all the things and reactive and argumentative and defensive and worried and problematic, the divine remains just the way it has always been. And so healing may be thought of as getting clear on that inherent wholeness of the divine, no matter how things are looking on the outside, and letting that awareness of the divine's grace and beauty guide me in my actions, in my thoughts, in my words, in my relationships, can even act through me to reveal what is good and what is true and what is right. I'm thinking about our Science of Mind textbook. That's the book our founder wrote. And at the end of it, there are these examples of how to do devotional contemplations. How to train your mind to look to the perfection of the divine and to saturate your thinking with its wholeness until that kind of thinking crowds out anything else that is not like it. And all you are left with is a solid, deep, sure, definite feeling of the presence of something that is greater than you are, that is not only capable of creating wholeness, but which is the inherent wholeness of being itself. So I took one of those devotional contemplations at the back of the book and I converted it into a series of affirmative statements. So imagine first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening, you're saying these things to yourself. God restores me to wholeness. The divine spirit within me is perfect. It is whole and it is complete. It is the spirit of infinite peace and it is within me. I recognize that spirit of the divine as the power that is moving through my life. It, being the divine, has no want and no fear. It, being the divine, has no limitation and no doubt. It, being everywhere present and all-knowing, is right here where I am. So I say to myself with this mind, there is that within me which guides me into harmony and love, and I let that divine spirit within me, using whatever method it may, restore me to perfect wholeness and perfect happiness, and to bring into my experience that which is good and true. Now, I don't know if you noticed, there's a key phrase in there, one that reveals the teaching of the science of mind. Using whatever method it may. Oh, we can't skip past that. Using whatever method it may. I let that divine within me, using whatever method it may, restore me to wholeness and happiness. You see, it's a reminder that the divine moves through everything, works through everything to reveal wholeness. So whether that is a pill or a physician or physical exercise or a diet or hugging a tree or something else we have not yet discovered or something else we have not yet considered or something else that has not yet been invented, something that is nevertheless available through the infinite, endless, amazing, creative genius of the universe. So, when I do my spiritual work, like when I'm praying for something, well, we ought to try not to place limits on how our prayers must be answered. We try not to outline how the divine must produce results. So instead, we try to adopt an attitude of openness to possibilities and the revelation of the wholeness that is always and already present. It's time to tell that story. You know it very well. It's been told many times. The story of the man in the flood who is sitting on his roof. You know that story. The water is rising and he sits on the roof and he prays to God to be delivered. Very soon somebody comes up to the house in a rowboat and says, jump in and I'll take you to safety. And the man says, I've got this covered. I've prayed to God. And the water rises, and very soon a motorboat comes by and says, jump in, I'll take you to safety. And the man says, don't you worry about a thing. I've got this covered. I've prayed to God for deliverance. Very soon the water's up to his waist. And a helicopter comes by and says, this is your last chance, and drops the ladder down. And the man says, I have got this covered. And as the helicopter pulls off, the man drowns. And sitting in the heavenly abode, he confronts God and says, what was that about? I prayed for deliverance. And God says, I sent you a canoe. I sent you a motorboat. I sent you a helicopter. What were you expecting? See, we know it. We know this story, but it's a terrific and timely reminder for us to adopt the attitude of welcoming life using whatever method it may to reveal the inherent goodness and truth of this existence. Now, when I use the word life, I mean life with an uppercase L, a capital L, because I mean the one life of the divine. I mean the divine itself. I mean the creative genius of the universe, and I mean to identify myself with that life, and I mean to call it my own and to quit second guessing it. And that calls for courage. That calls for loyalty. That calls for openness, and it calls for me to quit thinking I have to do everything with my own mind. Our teaching, the name of our teaching, the science of mind. And I can get stuck in my mind, with the thinking that it's all up to my mind to figure out the stuff of how the universe should be run, and how things should be and how things should not be, and who should do what, where, and when. And also, I can see how a person can get stuck in their thinking that if they can't think themselves out of their trouble, that they've failed. And then start to feel pretty guilty about the fact that their faulty thinking is more powerful than the grace and the beauty of the inherent goodness of all life. What? Which it is not. Your most negative, destructive, corrupt thought is still not more powerful than the inherent goodness and beauty and truth of life. What? You see, I think what's happening, though, is life is trying every darn possible way to give itself to us completely without taking away our independence and choice and freedom. And it will not give up. So we ought not to. A canoe is coming. Someone asked our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, if you believe in the power of mind to create healing, why are you wearing glasses? And he said, well, because I can't see a darn thing without them. See, he saw glasses as one of the possible answers to his wholeness request. And through the glasses, he could see more of the wholeness of this creation in crystal clarity. If somebody asked him about medication, should we take medication if we believe in the healing power of the mind? He said, if the pill helps, take it. Because he saw medical science as yet another one of the possible ways that the divine can reveal itself. He saw everything as the potential answer to prayer. Anything. Using whatever method it may. A canoe, a motorboat, a helicopter, glasses, medication, or something else I have not yet discovered, or something else I have not yet considered, or something else that has not yet been invented. So my attitude again is to adopt an openness. So I think it's like this. I adopt the attitude that says, something's going on. Something is happening. And it all started when I set my mind on wholeness. Yeah. And the one perfect life is revealing itself through my requests. And so I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to pay attention in a new way. I'm going to pay a kind-hearted, attentive, loyal attention, because I'm expecting the natural wholeness of life to be revealed. I'm expecting that. And I know there are many ways that prayers can be answered, so I want to be available to them. I read this old article online about a group of realtors, highly stressed realtors, that were under the care of a doctor in the University of Buffalo, and she prescribed to them a cat or a dog. And then those who took the prescription, 18 months later, their blood pressure had dropped radically. And their ability, self-reported ability to cope with stress increased dramatically. So I'm imagining in my mind, I'm creating a made-up scene in which the realtor's prayer is, please, Lord, deliver me from stress and bring me more well-being into my life. The answer is, I sent you a pet. Did you care for it? And then the response, I didn't want a pet. I wanted peace. Do you see? Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see? Like, I got to ask myself, where am I saying no to a potential answered prayer? That's what I'm thinking about today. That's what we're thinking about this whole month. Being more open to healing or to wholeness, no matter how it comes into our lives. And at the same time, I want to remain authentic and real about those times when the process of healing and the process of growing is just awful. Or when it doesn't seem like any boat or helicopter or canoe is on the horizon. Or those times when things seem absolutely stuck or getting worse. Yeah? When inner peace has gone right out the window. See, I want to know that there's a place for everyone at our center here, especially when we are feeling less than whole and perfect and complete and we feel messy. You see, because we teach that you and I, our thought is creative. And we teach that we participate in the creation of this world through our thinking. We teach that we have choice over our attitude and our responses. And do you know that we also teach, and this is the part that is often skipped over, we also teach that it is very important for us to be compassionate and kind with each other when we are facing and walking and working through those difficult challenges of life. You can't forget that. That's very important because when we are going through our stuff, we don't always look good. And we don't act our best, and we don't always behave like the high-minded spiritual beings we know we are on the inside. We have a temporary departure from our core of peace. I'm thinking of our nation right now. You may have noticed people are feeling stressed right now. Slightly edgy. Very easy for irritation to flare up. And it's characterized by a lack of focus and an inability to stay centered. And not everyone is showing up as high-minded or centered as we could. Stress will do that. Knock a person off their center, whether it's from politics or a divorce or a dissolving relationship or a child acting out or an illness that can knock you off your center to the point where it looks like you don't know what you believe. I heard a speaker once refer to these kind of experiences as a dark gift. The sort of thing you wouldn't choose for yourself. You wouldn't choose it by yourself. And yet, in the long run, in the end of it, it transforms us and reveals the inherent wholeness that was always and already present. Our country is working through some dark stuff. Yeah. And stuff is educating us. Yeah. And it's bringing our issues from the inside out and from the darkness into the light. And who is to say what's on the other side of it? Maybe our evolution. Maybe it's the answer to our prayer. Well, it does make one wonder, what are we praying for our country? And what are you dwelling on when it comes to your country? That's important, Psalm 19, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. What am I meditating on for my country? Maybe my prayer is being answered. Whatever. While we're working through whatever it is, we don't seem to be able to keep our focus on our interconnectedness and our diversity and our shared humanity and all the things that make us America. But it's a temporary departure. And it may even be the answer to our prayer and the pathway to peace. When I started studying at the Center for Spiritual Living, things in my life did get suddenly really better, except in those parts of my life where they got really worse. I couldn't understand what was happening. And I hid those parts away because I kind of felt like a failure. I couldn't wrestle those parts of my life into being well behaved. And it took a kind and compassionate teacher to point out to me that, that can be normal. That can be a normal part of the process, because as soon as a person begins working on a block in their life, it is typical for everything that helped put that block in place in the beginning to come up to be reckoned with. So I might say to myself, I'm going to start working on having more meaningful relationships, and then all of my quirky personality issues come up. And that's got to be addressed. Because until I address it, I may not even notice the helicopter. Or I can say, I'm going to start meditating on prosperity. And then all my blocks around giving and generosity and selfishness and receiving and manipulation, they all come up. That has to be addressed. Because until it's addressed, I may not even see the canoe. So yes, things, it seems, can get worse before they get better. And all the while that we change through the fluctuation between worse, better, the divine is not changing. Wholeness is permanent, infinite, eternal. So in my mind, I have to talk to myself and say, don't give up. Don't never ever give up. A canoe is coming. Although things on this earthly plane can get messy, the divine remains exactly as it is. Although things on the outside can break down and become corrupt, the divine remains exactly as it is. Although my mind can get confused, irritated, defensive, afraid, panicked, the divine remains exactly as it is. And I want to remember that when I'm going through my stuff, or when somebody I love is going through their stuff, Or when somebody I don't even know is going through their stuff. Or when my country is going through its stuff, I want to remember that. It's just stuff, serious stuff, and all the while the inherent wholeness and beauty and truth of life remains the same, and a canoe is coming. There is a Buddhist teaching from the Metta Sutta that really helps with this. It offers a way to practice in the world, in a world of change and flux. It goes like this. Throughout the day, as you're moving around, pick on somebody. Just pick on somebody randomly. Look at them from a distance and say silently to yourself, may you be happy. Or when you're in traffic, or you're standing in line in the market, just look around and pick on somebody. Pick on somebody you don't even know. And silently in your mind offer them this blessing, may you be happy. Or when you're in disagreement with somebody and you're having one of those conversations about the political state of our nation, see if while you are talking, you can silently say in your mind to that person, may you be happy. Or when you're alone at home, whether you are happy or sad or depressed or whatever you are, see if you can make a moment to interrupt whatever you're doing and to say to yourself as an offering, a blessing, may you be happy. And see what that does. I invite you to breathe in with me and to exhale, letting your eyes close as we enter into a moment of affirmative prayer. I acknowledge one creative power in and through the universe, one infinite mind from which everything comes. The creative genius it is that causes all things to be. And by naming it as infinite, I am identifying myself with it. Because to me, infinite means everywhere present in all directions, and that includes where I am. So my mind, my body, my soul, my all of me is part of that infinity. And I take a moment to realize that this is true for every person in this auditorium, too, true of all life. And this leads me to realize that there is something happening right now. From the moment we turned our thought toward the wholeness and truth of life, something began to happen, and I am glad of it. Like a renovation from the inside out, something is happening. And so I give thanks for that. It floods my mind with joy. And I give myself over to trusting the spiritual laws that govern the universe as they always have. And together we say, and so it is. Once more, a breath in and a sigh.